It all began with laughter, music, and fireworks bursting over the Mississippi River. Thousands of people filled the streets of downtown New Orleans, celebrating the arrival of 2025. Families held hands, couples hugged under falling confetti, and children waved glow sticks in the cool winter air. Everything was joy, until the sound of an engine roared louder than the cheers. A large white truck came speeding down Canal Street, its headlights cutting through the crowd like a knife through fog. People screamed and scattered, but it was too late for some. The truck didn't slow down. It accelerated. Within seconds, chaos erupted. Balloons popped, fireworks fell sideways, and terrified people ran in every direction. The truck swerved sharply, clipping barricades, throwing metal barriers into the air. Then came the awful sound. Thuds, glass shattering, and people crying out for help. Police officers nearby pulled their weapons, but the crowd was too thick. It was a scene no one could process fast enough. Joy had turned to terror in less than a minute. And just when everyone thought it was over, the truck came to a screeching stop, and a figure stepped out of the cab. Earlier that day, Officer David Ruiz, a 10-year veteran of the New Orleans Police Department, had been assigned to the Riverfront Patrol. Another year, another crowd, he'd joked to his partner. Let's hope it stays quiet. He couldn't have known that before the night ended, he'd be running toward the most terrifying moment of his career. Meanwhile, miles away, a man named Jordan Price sat alone in a white truck under a bridge. His hands trembled as he stared at the steering wheel. The radio played cheerful music, cruelly out of place with what was in his mind. He wasn't supposed to be here tonight, but something had brought him, something dark and unresolved. A deep ache burned behind his eyes. On the dashboard was a taped photograph of a woman and a young boy. Jordan stared at it, whispering words no one could hear. At 10:15 p.m., he turned the key, and the engine came to life. The low growl echoed under the bridge like a warning. He gripped the wheel tighter, breathing hard, before driving toward the bright lights of the city. Back in downtown New Orleans, the celebration was at its peak. Street vendors shouted over the brass bands, selling hot beignets and gumbo. Children ran with confetti, and the smell of barbecue filled the air. Everyone was counting down the minutes until midnight. Officer Ruiz leaned on a barricade, scanning the crowd. His radio crackled occasionally with minor updates. Everything looked perfect, until he saw the white truck. The truck rolled past the first barricade. Ruiz frowned. No vehicles were allowed that close to the crowd. "Hey, where's that truck going?" he shouted into his radio. Before dispatch could respond, the truck picked up speed. "Get those people out of the way," Ruiz yelled, but the music and fireworks drowned his voice. The tires screeched. The front barrier crumpled under the truck's weight. Then chaos. Vendors dove for cover. The truck slammed into a food cart, sending it spinning into the air. Hot oil splattered across the pavement, igniting small fires. Ruiz pulled a mother and her child to safety just in time. He shouted into his radio, "We need backup at Canal! It's a vehicle attack!" His words barely finished before another explosion of noise hit, a second crash farther down. The truck tore through everything in its path. People screamed. A few blocks away, a young man named Caleb and his sister were live streaming the fireworks for their friends. "This is crazy," Caleb laughed, pointing his phone toward the sky. Then headlights appeared in the frame. His sister's eyes went wide. "Caleb, look out!" she screamed. The camera captured the truck barreling toward them. Then silence. The live stream ended abruptly as the phone hit the ground. The truck finally crashed into a concrete barrier near the fountain. Smoke billowed from the hood. For a moment, everything went eerily still. Fireworks popped distantly, echoing against the chaos. Then the driver's door opened. A man stepped out, pale and shaking, his eyes empty. In one hand, he held a small black remote. Officer Ruiz took cover behind a patrol car. The man raised the remote. Ruiz shouted again, "Put it down!" But the man pressed the button. A blinding flash lit the air, followed by a sharp pop. The truck went dark. The lights flickered out. Smoke spread fast, filling the air with a thick gray haze. People screamed, not knowing if it was a bomb or something worse. Ruiz called for the bomb squad, moving closer, guns still aimed. He could bear. The second truck burst through the fog like a monster from a nightmare. Its headlights sliced across the street, and the ground shook under its tires. People screamed and scattered once again, some tripping over debris from the first crash. Officer Ruiz's heart pounded as he yelled into his radio, "We've got a second vehicle! Everyone clear canal!" Sirens wailed in the distance, but they were too far. Ruiz aimed his flashlight, barely making out the dark outline of Ruiz's radio crackled. "Officer Ruiz, what's your status?" he replied between breaths. "The truck's empty. Repeat, no driver." Just then he saw a small sticker on the side of the truck door, a faded delivery logo, half torn off. But beneath it were words written in marker. "For them." Ruiz's stomach turned. He backed away slowly. "Bomb squad." The voice came from an injured man sitting near a broken barrier. His face was pale, streaked with blood, but his eyes were clear. Ruiz rushed over, kneeling beside him. "Who? Who wasn't alone?" The man swallowed hard. "The driver. There were two of them. I saw them switch trucks under the bridge earlier tonight. One was driving, the other was watching." "Watching?" Ruiz asked, gripping his shoulder. Backup units arrived within minutes, sirens echoing across the riverfront. Officers rushed in, pushing people away from the smoke-filled area. The once beautiful celebration was now a battlefield of flashing lights, overturned carts, and dropped confetti. Detective Laura Hanley from the Major Crimes Unit stepped out of her unmarked car, her coat whipping in the cold breeze. "What do we have, Ruiz?" she asked. At 1:12 a.m., the bomb squad moved in. They deployed a small robot toward the second truck. The robot's camera feed flickered on the team's monitor. Inside, they saw wires, a plastic container, and something else. A phone taped to the dashboard, still recording. The screen showed a live video feed of Canal Street, taken from a few minutes earlier, before the first impact. And then, a distorted voice played. Meanwhile, across the river, in an old warehouse near Algiers Point, a man watched the news broadcast on a cracked TV screen. His name was Travis Cole, a former truck driver who'd been fired from his job a month earlier after multiple incidents. He was tall, unshaven, and pacing the room like a caged animal. Next to him, a laptop streamed live footage from a traffic camera near Canal Street. Smoke still rose from the scene. Back downtown, the investigation was growing more intense. Detective Hanley and Ruiz reviewed CCTV footage pulled from nearby stores. The first clip showed Jordan Price's truck at 10:47 p.m., waiting at a red light near the French Market. But there was another truck right behind it, a dark gray one. "Pause it," Hanley said. "Zoom in on the second truck." The frame froze. The second driver's face was obscured by a baseball cap. By 3 a.m., the streets of New Orleans were empty, except for emergency crews and investigators. Ruiz walked past the shattered glass, the spilled food, and the haunting silence that followed the chaos. He stopped near a child's dropped glow stick still blinking faintly on the ground. Hanley joined him. "You okay?" she asked softly. He nodded, though his voice was low. "We stopped." At dawn, news crews swarmed the streets. The headlines were immediate. "Terror in New Orleans. Truck attack kills 9, injures dozens." Photos of Jordan Price circulated online, along with speculation about his motive. But behind the scenes, Hanley's team had discovered something worse. A note inside the glove compartment of the first truck. Written in smeared ink, it read, "Forgive me. He made me do it." Hanley's. That night, as the sun set again over New Orleans, the sound of distant fireworks testing for the next day's parade echoed faintly through the air. In a dimly lit warehouse, Travis Cole watched those same fireworks from a cracked window. The notebook was open on his desk, beside a small transmitter. He smirked, whispering to himself, "They think it's over." He pressed a button on the transmitter. A faint red. The camera slowly fades from the last haunting image of the abandoned truck, smoke billowing into the cold New Orleans sky. The streets that were once filled with joy and fireworks are now eerily silent, only the flashing lights of police vehicles cutting through the smoke. As the investigation continues, one question lingers in the minds of all who witnessed that night. What were the true motives behind this deadly attack?